guys, welcome or welcome back. I am Luna. I hope you have an amazing day. Today we're doing part 3 to growing up in the 2020s. Let's get right into it. Let's talk about the education disconnect that is happening in the 2020s. So there is a old school system against new world skills. How do you think that's going to find out? If you go into like any normal high school, what really has changed since the 1990s? Desk in rows, regular school schedules, routine memorization, and then standardized testing. Really, has anything changed? The problem is, we live in 2025 now. Well, currently, as I'm filming this video, we are not living in the 1990s, and a lot has changed since then. Employees now value different things. Of course, things such as hard work is very amazing as well. What school systems have done, really, I'll give you a little history background. A lot of people say different stuff, but I, for one, think that school systems have evolved to maybe help people make factory workers, because ultimately that's what we needed back then. People who follow, listen to the teachers, and do things right. But today's employers want something different. They want people with creativity, critical thinking, and tech fluency. So that can include AI and coding and etc. And collaboration. A thing that traditional schools aren't doing so much in. Gen Z has grown up as digital nomads. We grew up with anything we wanted to know being as easy as a tap or search on our screens. Earlier generations can't do that. You had to go to the library or like ask somebody, and it was a whole process. But now it's so fast, so quick, and so easy. Yet still, sometimes many of our classes are still more focused on reciting info than necessarily understanding it and then applying it. Often feels like we are getting prepared for the 20th century workforce than the 21st century workforce. Not collaborative or really close to the reality that we are in. For example, right now, AI literacy is supposed to be one of the most important skills that you can learn in the 21st century right now. It's going to be very critical for many careers. But how many schools or how many people got an education on AI or computer science in the early 2020s? Very few. Only half of high schools in the US are offered computer science, even in the 2020s. And data and coding skills are still seen as just an elective, not as skills that are very valuable and need to be learned. Many of us have to self-teach ourselves, like on YouTube or other websites, which is, for one, I think, quite fun. But if I could have saved some time and used more time to learn those skills, that would be quite amazing. Meanwhile, the curriculum inside schools can sometimes feel just not so good, kind of stale. Like, I, for one, do kind of understand this because I definitely do sometimes think about all of the facts and things that I'm learning in school, and I just think I could really have just looked this up as easily. But if you're going to be in certain skill sets and certain careers, it is good to just have that knowledge yourself. Like, if you're going to be a doctor, you want to know certain things to look out for and not have to look out every single day. It is light on practical life skills like financial literacy or gig work. We sat through lectures on the Pythagorean theorem, but did not get a degree with courses about learning how to do our taxes or other practical skills. It's kind of like a mismatch. Like the old system, it does prioritize you remembering things, following instructions, and sitting still. New world skills need tech savviness, innovation, and adaptation. These schools can kind of make Gen Z feel a little disconnected with the real world. We can talk all about how the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, but you know what would be more useful? Knowing how to prompt AI or help it to analyze certain things. And I do see like a pushback on AI, which I find really interesting and kind of bad. Like I have heard some alleged like studies. I'm not sure if this is true, but they do allegedly say that it could like make you study worse or something like that. And they did do studies that saying like writing your own notes could actually be more beneficial than like typing it. It helps you remember more. But the thing is, like, technology is not going to go away. Like, it's always going to be here. We've seen this for history. You know, a new technology comes up, people get scared of it. They don't know how it works, or they just feel weird about it. When anything new happens, such as segregation, when we desegregated, people were scared about it. They didn't like it, so they fought back against it. But change happens, and you just have to deal with it, and you have to work with it. And if they do not want us to be using AI in a certain way, they must teach us how to use it in a different way that they want us to use it. Like, that would be very helpful. I, for one, certainly love AI. It saves up so much time, and if I could use it in school, it made me such a better student. Now, let's talk about whether college is really worth it. For our parents, I know, like my dad always told me, what will get us out of poverty? Education, and how that is so important. So getting a college degree basically means it is a one-way free trip, or, well, not free, but a trip to getting a good, stable job and career. But for us, it is a big risk. We could end up in crippling debt with no job to pay that off. Or not even, maybe a job, but maybe not a good job. That takes us a while to pay that off. That makes many of us think, why even go to college? College costs, as you probably know, have gone insane. Tuitions and fees have literally skyrocketed with inflation. Americans now owe 1.6 trillion in student loans. Yup, I said that right. A heavy burden that is disproportionately affecting young and more vulnerable adults. It is sadly not uncommon for a 22-year-old to graduate with $20,000 in debt, $40,000 in debt, $50,000 in debt, or $100,000 in loan debt. Starting your life as an adult in crippling debt or even a good amount of debt makes you kind of wonder, is getting a degree even really worth it? A lot of Gen Z are choosing different paths or they are delaying college. I, for one, have certainly thought about this. I thought about delaying college because I was seeing the tuitions and everything of other colleges, but I ultimately decided not to because I saw my college tuition that I'm going to. It was $10,000, which is still a lot. That is going to be $40,000 for 4 semesters. But ultimately, I am so lucky. Like, I know some people's parents, they're not going to help them with their education. That's one thing that I hope that, financial aid, just get that on, is that, sure, your parents may make this amount of money, but are they willing to give you that amount of money? For a lot of people, the answer is no. Like, I am extremely grateful that I'm going to have this help for the $40,000, but I'm definitely still going to have to work, which is fine. A lot of people have worse than me. So I think I'll be okay. But one thing that my sister was telling me about if you delay college, which I have thought a little bit more about, is if you delay college or university, it might take a little bit more for you to go back there. And it is a little, how do I say this? I would say it's a little harder because just thinking about it in general, like let's say after high school, you go straight to college, right? And then what are you, like 18, 19, right? But then let's say you take a good break. Oh, you like that break. It's nice. You delayed it. And you take another break, and then you take another break, and then you take another break. So that's 4 years. And let's say you're 18. So you're 18, 19, 20, 21. Then you're 21, going on to your first year of college when everybody else has gotten their degree. And then I totally feel that FOMO. You feel like you missed out. And you're seeing all these people who are way younger than you doing like so much. And then it's like, but also you could like forget a lot of stuff and you don't know what's happening, and then that can make you fall behind even more, having to spend more money on college, having to spend more years on college, and that just has a overwhelming effect, and that puts you in more debt, and that is just horrible. But sadly, some people, they have to do that. They have to delay college. They have to save up money because maybe they can't get a loan. In fact, just to let you know, university enrollment has declined 6% since the pandemic, which I can kind of understand. One thing is, especially like if you are a high school student, let's say you're like a senior, and everybody you know is talking about college. Everybody and their mama are talking about college, okay? And if you don't go to college, sometimes it can make you feel like a little FOMO, which can be bad, but can be good in the same way, because you're thinking, oh, everybody else is going to college, which is something that I've always wanted to do. And I think a lot of people want to do that as well. Everybody and their mom is going straight to college, so why not just go straight to college with them instead of delaying it? That can motivate you and push you, which can be a good thing. But the interest rates in different trade schools have increased. Coding boot camps and other programs have seen more enrollment. For trade programs and vocational programs, the enrollment has gone sharply up, kind of like doubling what it was in 2017. Many of us have watched millennials struggle with debt and unemployment. I can see I have seen this a little bit, not the appointment, but I for one have seen like my sister, for example, not to call her out, but just to say that use her as example, she has been telling me about the debt that she has had, or like not really the number, but how much it has and how much it has affected her, and how much she has to definitely like work and get that money and pay it off. And I just think, wow, that is a lot. It made us kind of cynical, or did I say that? Cynical about whether college equals success. Kind of like, huh, like that. That is not necessarily true. And I also believe that sometimes, at least where I am going to, some people or certain people, they kind of like push you going to like a private college or like a non SUNY college, for example, because I don't know, the prestige of it, I guess you could say. I'd say not teachers, but like the students around me, they kind of like are talking about that. But the more I think about it, the more I think like me going to a SUNY is definitely a good option because you're getting what? Like this, basically the same education. Unless you're going to like a really, really like cool Ivy, because that could look, really good for jobs. But unless you're going to that, you going to a community college versus a private college is just like, all it's doing is taking money out of your pocket. Like, I don't think there's really a reason. Unless you can afford it, and your parents can afford it and they're paying for you, then if you really want to go, then do it. But if you want to save some extra cash, just go to SUNY. Just go to like a community college or a cheaper college, because why not? You will thank yourself later when you are not in crippling debt. I've seen so many TikToks as well about people talking about how much debt they're in, how much they regret going to like a private college, how they should went to a community college. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna learn for that, and I'm gonna go to a community college. There's also a sense that is time is money. A 4-year gap in college isn't really the best use of your time. Now, I can totally get this because, listen, being in college for 4 years, what could you have done with that? You could maybe start a company, start a fashion line. You could get more time to put into your social media. Time is money. To learn skills that can help you in your life, and then eventually make money off of it. If you learn how to code or get your electrician's license in 1 to 2 years, you can make pretty decent money. So why spend 4 years and $10,000s of dollars on a bachelor's degree? A recent survey has found that around a quarter of Gen Z has regret going to college and accumulating debt. That is a humongous amount. Many young people are asking, do I actually need college? Or will it just put me in thousands of dollars in heavy, back-breaking, or not back-breaking, but humongous loads of debt? 4 years. Because also, I've thought about taking out loans too, like so I don't have to work. But you have to think about interest as well. Interest is how they make money. And the bigger loan, of course, a lot of times, the more money they make. And I'm not trying to do that. Because it kind of puts you in a setback as well for debt. Really, at least what I've heard from the financial gurus, the first thing you want to do is like pay off all your debt. And then once you pay off all your debt, then you save, then you invest, then you put in for your retirement. But if you could just finish your 4 years without any debt, and then straight, or while you are going for your 4 years, save and invest and put in retirement, that could just put you into a nice habit even, to just have a start, even if it's not a lot, even if it's like $5, okay? $5 a month. That is something. And that helps you get into the habit so that when you do finish your degree, and you get that job, and then you can put even more money into your savings and retirement and investments and live below your means, of course. that is an amazing start. There is also a guidance gap. The education system hasn't fully caught up with our today's reality. In high school, a lot of us has gotten a certain message. Go to a good college, or you might just end up working at McDonald's. Now, I have heard this, but not necessarily in high school, more in like my younger years. I remember my teachers, I'm not gonna say her name because I don't want to call her out, because I believe she was doing her best. Because a lot of people back then, that's what they think. They think you just need to go to college, or else you're gonna be working at McDonald's for like the rest of your life until you're 150, and you're gonna be stuck in the back making chickens for somebody who's yelling at you in the driveway for going too slow, but you have arthritis and you cannot walk correctly, and it's really hard for you, and you are having a horrible time. That is like the worst case scenario. In high school, I have seen in mine that a lot of them are saying whether you go to the army, or you go straight to the workforce, or you go to trade school, all are okay. That's We as Gen Z are seeing that skilled trades can give you good income flow without having to go into and accumulating such crippling amount of debt. For example, many trade jobs. These trade jobs, such as electricians, AVAC, and etc., have often exceeded new grads with bachelor degrees salaries, with a far less educational expense. As a result, there is a big boom in the interest in such pathways. Some of us are calling us the toolbat generation because of so many young people going into trade school and vocational school, or just trading careers in general. It's not because of less ambition, it is more because of practical ambition. Choosing a pathway that doesn't entail 6 figures of debt. There are a lot of Gen Z who are choosing great trade schools and entrepreneurship because it makes more sense now, or at least not more, but it makes a lot of sense now instead of going into that much debt. Studies have shown growing skepticism for people of such as Gen Z about access, affordability, and value of a traditional degree, which has been fueling that shift. Our generation is pushing educators to step up to the plate. Like, come on. Provide more realistic career prep, life skill training, and etc. There has been some amazing signs. I, for one, have seen in my school, we have put, I don't know how they put it, but they put trade school into our school. So what does my school have? We have nursing, or I think it's more like CNA. We have, what do you call it, cosmetics. We have people who do hair. We have I think we have nails as well. We have HVAC, we have electricians, and I think we have plumbing as well. All of those are absolutely amazing, and it's nice that as soon as you get out of high school, you can have something. But a lot of Gen Zers are just learning how to do things from the internet and TikTok instead of being taught by the school itself, which would definitely have helped. I have definitely learned some things on my own, and I think it's great that I've learned on my own. I took the initiative, but it would have been nice to not have been surprised about all of the new things to do. But then again, I think about school in general. We are lucky to even have that institution. If you do, hopefully you do, get an education, because many people do not. And though it's not perfect, I would say for one that I think it's getting better. Well, except for the phone ban. I do not like the phone ban. But I think it's good that at least in my school, we have vocational programs, we have trade schools, we have nursing programs, we have all of these different programs for people that might not want to go the traditional pathway. And my school has quite a positive atmosphere for whatever you choose to be, whatever you choose to do, whether that be trade school, workforce, army, or jobs. And I am extremely thankful because not all schools are like that. There has been a change in the family dynamics. So a lot of people are calling us the boomerang kids. Economic pressures and cultural shifts have changed how Gen Z has thought about family in their 20s. A lot more of us are living with our parents in early adulthood. And it's not just a brief time of settling in and figuring out what to do post college. In the 2020s, the pandemic has pushed a unprecedented amount of adults, about 50% of them, to live with their parents, which has been the highest since the 1930s. In 2023, 18% of 25 to 34-year-olds, which is older Gen Z and younger millennials, lived with their parents. That is nearly 1 in 5 people who would have been settled down or married in earlier generations. This can have a very large impact on family relationships. Being an adult under your parents' roof can be a bit difficult because you want that autonomy, but you you won't have as much autonomy. They have rules. They want you to be home at a specific time. You can't wear certain things. You probably can't eat certain things, and you sure can't do certain things, which those things may be pretty bad either way and pretty good, but you doing those things can definitely help you learn how to not do those things and why you shouldn't do those things. Instead of you learning later, why not learn now? You definitely, as a young adult, crave independence. Financially speaking, many Gen Zers, they don't have a choice but to live at home because rent is absolutely absurd. I have been thinking about it, and it is a lot because if you live by the 50-30 rule, 50-30-20 rule, which is where about 50% of your expenses goes for your necessities, or hold on, 30% goes for your wants and 20% goes for your savings. If you live by that, and then you look up the average, let's look up the average salary. Average salary in general. So it's around $60,000 per year, $5,000 per month. If you get a $60,000 salary, and then you are getting $5,000 per month, and then you take up the $4,000 with just the rent, how can you even survive? And it is the average, but many people are making below that as well, which leads to people having to either stay at home or get a roommate. And I know that having a roommate is, for a lot of people, less than optimal because I have like heard horror stories, at least from like my siblings, about like how hygienics were much less than optimal. Not even optimal, horrible. Like, why are there dirty clothes laying around the room, trash sitting on the floor, things that I don't want to see? So, living with random people or living with a roommate is not always good. It it's become a norm for many people in their 20s to still live in their childhood bedroom, or maybe having to come back after seeing how horribly expensive the world is. It can change really the parent to child dynamic because you are adult. Many people are not rushing to marriage or have mortgages at 22 as many of our grandparents have. On one side, you get to spend extra time with your family members and you get to save money as a young adult. On the downside, it could delay some full independence and cause some friction with your parents. It's giving, I am 25 and yet I still have a 6 p.m. curfew. And going out Having fun late at night is one of the things that many young adults like to do. I, for one, don't think that this is absolutely horrible. I mean, in the sense that you cannot financially pay for it is quite horrible. Yes, like you should be able to pay for it. But I think I look at this more positively than necessarily negatively because you do get to spend more time with your parents. And you spending more time with your parents, especially in these years of developing, if you guys have a good relationship, hopefully, is not necessarily bad. I have like seen this surgeon talk about how your brains aren't fully developed until you're like 25, 30, and they are saying that young people in a institution such as college can lead to pretty dumb stuff happening. And he didn't exactly say it like that, but I'm just thinking it can, because your brains are not fully developed. You're a lot of times not thinking too much about the future, you're thinking about the now. And so many things can go down. People are immature, and I mean, people can be immature about any age, but especially when your brain is underdeveloped, or not underdeveloped, but yeah, have to developed. That is not the best. If you think about it, when you put like a bunch of teenagers together, erotic teenagers, hormones, and etc. Think about how many horrible stuff can happen. But also think about how many good stuff have happened. How many relationships has formed, how closer you get, how you figure out adulthood together. Okay, so let's talk about marriage. There has been another big shift. Many marriage rates for young adults have plummeted. For many Gen Z, marriage is not much on even on the itinerary until much later in their life. Only about 45% of people are married in their late 20s to early 30s instead of 55 2 decades ago. The median age for marriage is around 28 for women and 30 for men, and that age is climbing. A growing chunk of people simply may never marry. As of 2021, 25% of 40-year-olds have never married in the US. That is up 20% from the decade before. If the trend continues, a good amount of Gen Z may never get married or may never get married until much later in life. There are a lot of factors to be involved with this. So, economic stability is a big one. Many people do not feel financially secure enough to settle down and get married and have a family. Socially, marriage is not much as a big thing as it has been before. Long term relationships have been accepted more so now. Plus, I mean, I don't really see this as much, but I know there are many people that have seen like their parents divorce or people divorcing, millennials divorcing, and maybe we don't want that to happen to us. So it is maybe better for some of us to just wait and see how things really pan out before we get married. But a thing that is interesting, a lot of Gen Z do find marriage in a bright green light. It's just that some of us are not rushing to do it in our 20s as earlier generations prior have. We are prioritizing education, economics, and personal growth and career, and are often grappling debt that can sadly make marriage and having kids feel very much out of reach. The traditional timeline of, meeting somebody in college, getting married, and then having, some kids is not as much as a thing now. Or not so much as a thing, but is getting rare Many of us will marry in our 30s, if so at all. And many, such as my friends, have said that they are not getting married openly or having any children, focusing instead on our careers and personal life choices and goals. It is a huge societal shift that generations prior may not get. Definitely had a traditional timeline and different setups. But given the economic hurdles, shifting values, and more ways to find meaning outside of marriage, it is not surprising. Gen Z is redefining what family and commitment looks like. Also, a flip side. Many of us are thinking about marriage more practically and more intensely, taking more time to really think about it, whether this is the right decision, with more deliberately and better intention. Could this mean that more stable unions and more happy marriages could be? Time will only tell. For now, the only things that we can see is that our relationships are definitely different from the previous generations, which creates both freedom and uncertainty. About the marriage thing, I think that yes, marriage is amazing, it's great, but I think also people do deserve to have their own freedoms. I've heard like many on times on TikTok, sadly, with like mothers talking about how they wish that they didn't have children. And I just think that is quite sad. But then I'm thinking, oh, why did you have kids if you didn't want kids? Because back then, many people did not have a choice. You just had to listen to your husband and you had to have kids, which is actually horrible. Which can definitely will have an effect on your children's well-being and mental health. And marriage is not the only way that people should find fulfillment in their lives. You need different relationships, of course. You need to have friends. That is important. You focusing only on your marriage and your kids can definitely feel overwhelming for them. I think about it, if I was like the only one person for somebody, like, then all you're thinking about is like, if I do not answer their call, is it going to be an emergency? Do they have anyone else to call? And that constant worrying can lead to anxiety, and it's not the best for people. But also, you getting married to somebody that you don't like is one of the most tragic fates of early generations that many people had to go into. Ultimately, I think it's great that people get to decide on what they want to do. Because some people should not be parents. Not everyone should be a parent. And some people should probably not get married. Not everyone should get married. Because some people do not want to have kids. And some people will not be good parents. And some people do not want to get married. And some people will not be a good partner. And I think that is amazing that we have that choice now. But I think we've all heard of the tale of like a woman having, or a younger woman, let's say like in her teens, having to get married to, let's say, like an older man, and it being completely terrible, and him treating her like horribly, and her having to have kids as she is a child, as she having to have kids on top of being a child and raising those kids, and those kids probably coming up with horrible mental health issues and not such a good life. I'm not talking about teen moms. I'm talking about you putting pressures on to people who, if not for this marriage, they would be happier. Not only young people, just people in general. Anyway, I love you guys so much. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. See you later. I guess there's gonna be like 5 parts, just crazy, but I just have a lot to talk about.